Hello and welcome to Angry Andy Reviews, and this is my review for Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews.
Angry Andy. Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews.
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 Don't make me destroy you.
Ghostbusters Afterlife takes place some 30 years after the original Ghostbusters film released in 1984, and it follows a single mother and her two children who are forced to move to a new town where they soon discover a weird connection to the original Ghostbusters team and a secret, hidden, mysterious legacy left behind by their grandfather who, spoiler alert, turns out to be Egon Spengler. Now, the one thing that I was concerned about with this film was the level of nostalgia, the level of references, the level of callbacks, all of that, and how much it may infringe upon the characters and their own journey. And while it does almost derail that, it almost derails the characters towards the end of the film, especially, it's all done in such a loving way, an honest way, and a lot of the callbacks feel organic. The discoveries the characters make with the ghost trap, with the proton pack itself, the car, all of it's discovered in an honest sort of way. It almost reminds me of like a Spielbergian adventure from the late 80s, that kind of Goonies almost aspect to it. The adventure that these characters go on when they discover little pieces of information, little nuggets, and weird things start happening around that while they're investigating. I think that's where this film succeeds. Yes, it does go really heavy on the references. It does go really heavy on the nostalgia in the latter third of the film, should I say. And that's where it's playing to your emotions on purpose in that point. But the initial sort of opening half of the film really does play with, everything's rusted, everything's dated, everything's, it doesn't work. Nobody believes in any of it. And yet we get those little flecks of, when they activate the proton pack and you get those noises. That's the level of nostalgia that works in this film. That's the level of references that work in this film. All of these little nuggets that really sort of bring out those emotions. And like I said, they play to all of that honestly, and it is organic in terms of that investigative adventure that these characters go through. As I said, latter third of the film where things happen, it does almost take away from the characters. You've been with them through this entire journey, and then a few things get a bit too sort of fan servicey. But by that point, personally, I was along for the ride, and I loved it. I loved the ending. I had been spoiled about what happens, but it didn't take anything away from me. In fact, it was almost sad. The ending almost plays out like an apology, not to, the characters in that moment, but to the audience and to each other as the actors. It almost plays out like the actors are saying sorry that they didn't release a third film much sooner, when everybody was around, when everybody was still able to be a part of the film. And I don't know whether I'm reading too much into certain moments, certain lines that certain characters say. I don't want to spoil things too much, but the certain lines that two of the characters said really did sort of hit home for me. And I remember the talks of a third film being released all those years ago, and then people saying, "Nah, we're not going to do it because I don't want to do it." It really does feel like, an apology. Like, oh, we should have done this. We should have done this a long time ago because it feels good. The busting really does feel good, and it's really sad. It's sad, but it's honest and it's organic. It comes from a place where you can feel the emotion yeah, okay, we all know Bill Murray is one of those aloof sort of characters in real life, but you do get a genuine sense that there is some level of regret for not doing a third film so much more earlier. But the flip side of that is you wouldn't have got this film. You wouldn't have got this really sort of honest exploration of, hey, these characters as they've got to this point, and then this new generation who's all about discovery and playing and coming to terms with a past that really does, affect them. And Carrie Coon as Egon's daughter really does play that. She has to live with all of this nonsense that's come before, all of this stuff that she doesn't believe in and never understood what was going on. And it plays a really brilliant emotional level with it. And that's echoed by McKenna Grace, who just is determined as Phoebe in the film, who's determined to explore the science, determined to find out what's going on. And they butt heads at every opportunity because of it, because they have such a split sort of mentality about, what happened in the past. She really wants to explore it, Phoebe, but Callie just wants to be done with it. She wants to get away from it. She doesn't want to ever explore it again. And it's really heartfelt. Coming away from all of that, the cast is excellent right the way through. Absolutely excellent. I didn't anticipate it. I wouldn't say worried about any aspect of the characters, but it's all done, like I said, really shrewdly, really brilliantly, really brings out that classic sort of adventure film, family adventure film, that is. And yeah, okay, the story does sort of track away, but it's held together by these characters. It's held together by what they do, by what they explore emotionally, like I said. The effects are absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. Apart from possibly the villain, a little bit sort of. It's okay, I guess. Is it any better than what we've seen in the past? Without going into spoilers, no, I don't think so. But fundamentally, this film is just bloody fun. And I don't really have anything else to say other than that. It's shot really well, it looks really beautiful. The opening scene is spectacular. It's really fast paced. It's got a bit of fear in it, which is, such a different sort of way of looking at it. I never saw Ghostbusters as being scary, but the opening scene in this film was a little bit freaky, a little bit weird. And it plays up to that throughout the early parts of the film, the weird sort of creepiness, the ghosts and everything. But again, by the end of the film, everything is let loose, and we just get a fun final third that rides you straight into the credits. It's an emotionally charged film, I think, especially thinking possibly behind the scenes. There is a lot of love in this film. There's a lot of honesty. There's a lot of attention to detail, and that attention to detail does not negate it. It does not go against it. It adds something to it. And as a fan, I've been a fan since I can remember, watching the the BBC version that was cut because of all the scary ghost stuff. I can remember them never showing the librarian for some reason. How bizarre! But as a fan, this film does everything right. It does everything honestly, and it felt good. I actually don't have any specific point of criticism other than those minor little niggles, and sometimes that is the best thing to get from a film. You don't have to be overly critical all the time. It's just a perfect fun experience, and it's one of those films that I can't wait to show my children, I guess. And just on top of that, just to finish off, we were in the cinema and there was a really young kid sat right at the back, and he came in with his dad and his brothers and sisters. And at the end of the film, when certain things show up, I mean, spoiler, I'm going to spoil it anyway, but literally, they show up, and this kid Everybody's in the uniform, and this kid just let out an enormous cheer and shouted, "Yay! The Ghostbusters!" There's no more victory. There's no more better moment than hearing a kid at the cinema shout something in pure, unadulterated joy. And that's what this film is. It's a love letter to a time of absolute joy. Go and see the film. Go and see the film. It's great.